Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2026 Australian National Gymnastics Championships for trampoline and tumbling. Tonight we have some amazing athletes coming out, with all the glory on the cards tonight being finals night. So a lot of our athletes tonight are vying after prelim rounds yesterday for the coveted position of Australian National Champion in their respective disciplines. We've got a lot of different events on for you tonight, with our premier events being the men's and women's individual trampoline finals, as well as our tumbling men's and women's senior international tumbling finals, prelims and finals as well. So it is going to be an action-packed evening ahead. We've just got a few athletes that are starting their one-touch or competition floor warm-ups. So what you'll see now is the athletes have had an opportunity to touch the equipment already today, either out the back on the warm-up trampolines or out the front here already for our tumblers, as there is only one power track here set up, as it is quite a large piece of equipment and space is at a premium. So you'll see the athletes coming down now doing a warm-up just to get themselves ready to go, and then they will be underway for competition in no time. On the back trampolines we have our ladies getting up to do their warm-up as well into the lead up for their competition as well. So we have a lot of action-packed events coming through for you tonight. It will be absolutely stunning. The main event coming up now will be our power track tumbling. So this is probably the most well recognized for its connection to artistic gymnastics. Very similar piece of equipment to what you'll see on the artistic gymnastics floor, but slightly more bouncy, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more action, and you're going to see very soon some very, very impressive performances. In our field tonight we've got a two-time world champion, Ethan McGuinness, one of the most recognisable faces in trampolining sports in Australia. He's going to be taken to the floor for tumbling in a matter of minutes once this warm-up is complete. We also have a number of trampolining events that will be taking place tonight as well. My name is Sean Spalding. I'm an ex-international trampoline gymnast for Australia over the last 25 years. I've been to multiple world championships, 3-time Olympic reserves, multiple national titles under my belt as well. Recently retired, and now getting to share my knowledge and experience over the microphone for those of you that can't be here in Sydney with us today. So hopefully we can follow along. Hopefully we can cheer on some of Australia's best and brightest young athletes as they take to the floor in the hunt of the coveted Australian National Championships. Coming down the floor now for warming up, this is Ethan McGuinness out of New South Wales. He's the current world champion for men's tumbling. It's not the first time he's won it. He also won the World Championships in 2022. So, young man, only 25 years of age, and he's already racked up 2 World Championships under his belt already. He is one of the world's top athletes, and he is going to put on an absolute show for you tonight. One of the fan favourites too. I'm sure we're going to hear the crowd get behind Ethan as he comes down, because he is a absolute stellar athlete to watch and to get behind. So we have both the men and women competing in our power track tumbling tonight in simultaneous events. So you'll see the men and women mixed together. They're not actually competing against each other. It is just because of the smaller field sizes, the men and women run together. So it helps just the competition flow, and also gives the athletes enough break between passes so that we can guarantee pure performances that allow the athletes to develop their absolute best when it comes time for competition. So you'll see a mix between the girls and the boys, and they'll take their turns. They'll do 2 passes in the preliminary round, and then they'll progress through to a final where it is 1 pass, 0 start, to see who is crowned our national champion. So you can see our warm-up getting a little bit more into it now. Not too far off for these athletes to start the competition. So power track tumbling, they will have a roughly 26-metre track in front of them, run-up included, and they need to complete 8 elements to try and land on the landing mat that you can see now in screen. They get marked on their difficulty, how many hard somersaults and flips and twists they can do in those 8 skills, as well as an execution score with their speed and power and their form as well through the air, which is similar to our other trampoline sports, to get their total score. Ethan, who we just saw then complete his warm-up, he actually holds the world record for the most difficult tumbling pass ever done. Not sure we're going to see that pass tonight from Ethan. He's an expert tactician. His knowledge of the sport and his competitors is second to none, so I'm sure he's choosing a routine a little bit safer tonight than the world's most difficult routine, to make sure that he puts himself in a position to put his name on the coveted Australian National Champion trophy for tumbling. But he's not alone out there tonight. We also have Jacob Smith out of Tasmania. He's done multiple world championships and is a well-known and familiar face in the scene for tumbling. Harry Telford out of Queensland, and Tristan Stiles also out of Tasmania. Edith Penman is going to be from Victoria in our women's tumbling field. Lani Gleeson, as well as Alyssa Duffy from New South Wales. So you can just see the athletes now getting used to the equipment, getting a feel for the space, for the environment. I always found as an athlete, even though you're prepared, you're ready to go, when you step into a big arena like we have here in Sydney at Homebush Sydney Olympic Park, the lights can be a little bit different, a little bit of bigger space, a little bit of open air around you. Usually in your home gym, the power track or the tumbling floor or the dumping of the trampoline, it would be packed in close together alongside with other equipment. So it can just be a little bit of time just to get the adjustment. Every rod floor is going to be different depending on its age, depending on what sort of brand and how often the floor gets used or the trampoline gets used is going to change the reaction or the power or the spring that the athletes will receive from the equipment. So this warm-up time is vital, not only just physically to get the body prepared for action, but also to make sure that the athletes have their headspace and their aerial awareness dialed in so that they're able to produce at a high level. Here you can see Ethan getting himself ready. A little bit of an easier back somersault there, clearly working on his transition skill earlier. So you'll see the guys here do what we call whips or flicks, that's the fast, low, backward somersault motion that you're going to see a lot of the athletes do. A whip is where their hands don't touch onto the tumbling mat. A flick or a back handspring, as you might know from artistic gymnastics, is also going to be used as well to build that power and speed. What we're looking for essentially is the momentum from the athlete to be continuing down the track as high and as fast as possible, as low and fast as possible. Then you'll also see a couple of other elements peppered in there. So you might see an athlete do what we call a transition double, which is where a double somersault's going to pop up a little bit higher in the middle of the floor, and then they're going to transition out of that with another whip. And then, like we just saw there, the double somersault to finish. You do want to see athletes landing on that padded soft mat at the end, what we call the landing zone. If they do miss that and they land back on the rod floor, there is a slight deduction, but it's not enough to sort of end your day. As you can see on the screen too, there is two different floors out there. The track that you can see our senior athletes warming up on today, that is a power track. So that is what's used at the international level. The difficult thing with power tracks is they're an expensive piece of equipment, and from the end of the landing zone through to the run-up, they take up nearly 36 meters, so it doesn't fit on your traditional basketball court. So a lot of clubs will find it difficult to fit this equipment into their space. So a few years ago, unfortunately, tumbling in Australia dipped to quite a low number of participants that it actually got dropped from the calendar, from the card here at the Australian National Gymnastics Championships. And a big part of its revival has been the track that you can see on the right-hand side there, the air floor. They are far more affordable for clubs. Here we go, we've got our first athlete underway. We have Tristan Stiles out of Tasmania. He's going to kick off the competition here for our senior men tumblers. Round off to start his routine, straight into pike double back. He's transitioned a little bit slow there in his whips, so you can see him building back up to a bit of speed, and a double back tuck to finish off. Lost a little bit of momentum there for Tristan, but otherwise a pretty solid pass for him to finish up there for his first pass. So we'll see Tristan again. in the preliminary rounds before we progress through to our final. Just one of the youngest athletes out here tonight in the senior men's field, out of Tasmania. They've got a strong tumbling presence out of Kingsborough Gymnastics Club down there in Tasmania. Across all disciplines, really, they're an absolute powerhouse of a club out of Tasmania, and are doing an incredibly good job at producing athletes at a consistently high level. Harry Tedford now from Queensland. He's going to start his first pass here as well. So in this preliminary rounds, the athletes can't repeat a skill. So across their 2 passes, if they do, like we just saw Tristan then finish with a double back tuck somersault, that means in his second pass he can't repeat that skill without receiving some deductions. So you see a little bit of versatility from the athletes. You'll see skills change positions, skills adding in some twists. Here goes our Queensland athlete, nice big double belay, keeping his power and momentum there in a full in, full out tuck. Nearly holds that check there, just a little bit of imbalance there. We'll receive a minor penalty for that, but our athletes are moving so fast. Some of our top tumbling athletes have been clocked at traveling over 50 kilometers an hour down the power track. So to move from that to a nice high big skill to check is quite a challenge. Next up, we have our 2-time world champion out of New South Wales, Ethan McGuinness. We'll see what he's got on offer today. He's one of the more versatile athletes. He's got pretty much every skill you could ever imagine in the tumbling portfolio at his disposal. And his knowledge and understanding of the rules is second to none. So he is one who's known to manipulate his routines based on the competition, and to great success. As we've already mentioned, he's a 2-time world champion for Australia, and absolutely phenomenal athlete to watch. He trains out of KSTP, Kashan School of Tumbling, in Western Sydney. Just gets himself steady. Round off, double A, whip, whip, whip. Full in, full back out straight into full in, full out tuck. So you can see there, Ethan ups the ante a little bit with that 3rd double somersault. 2 double somersaults done in transition to the full in, full out tuck, and you can see the grace in his check and stick there. His coach that he's walking over to now, that is Dimma Kashan, the man who is a big part in the revival of tumbling sports here in Australia. He grew up in Belarus, spent some time in the circus, moved across to Australia with his wife, and they've opened up their tumbling school, Kashan School of Tumbling in Western Sydney, and since his arrival, the sport has been able to boom, alongside the introduction of the Air Force, making the equipment more accessible, more affordable for gym clubs to put into it. But he has been a big part of the revival here for trampoline and tumbling, tumble sports in trampolining over the last few years. Next up, we have Jacob Smith from Tasmania, been to multiple world championships, good, strong, solid team member for Team Australia. Whip double straight, loses a little bit of motion there into double tuck. Not 100% sure whether that was the planned pass for Jacob. You just saw his knees just missed time out of his double back straight there. Lost a little bit of power, but he regathered quickly, got himself back on track, and was able to put up a pretty solid pass to put a score on the board for himself to push him through to the finals. As you can see, probably not the most pleased with his performance. He's capable of some high-level tumbling, and hopefully we'll see an improvement for Jacob in his second pass. Next up, we have Elise Duffy out of New South Wales, starting off our women's tumbling prelim for round 1. So these athletes, will see them twice in the prelims, and then one routine in the final. Once the athletes transition into the final, all the skills that they've already done in prelims can be repeated. You just can't repeat them across the first 2 rounds. Full twist back, whip full, and pike double back to finish off. Quite strong pass there for her opening round from Elise Duffy. Next up, we'll have Lani Gleeson, also out of New South Wales. At the moment, we're going through a little bit of a rebuild phase in our women's side of the tumbling. We've had 2 of our top tumblers recently retire in the previous years. Coralie, and a few others have also just recently retired, opening up the door to some of our younger athletes. Here goes Lani Gleason. Round off, full, into double tuck to finish. You can see the slight difference in the colours of our landing zone. If an athlete was to step into that lower blue phase, there is a larger stepping deduction. Most of our tumbling athletes are going to stay in the main landing zone. And you can see the extra blue mat on top of the landing zone for tumbling. That's just to make sure there's that extra layer of safety. Sometimes the tumblers can end up landing a little bit short and jarring their ankles. So we want to make sure they're nice and safe, reduce that risk of injury as much as possible. Next up, we have Edith Penman from Victoria, starting off with her first pass. Round off, whip, double 8. Oh, just has a buckle of the knees there. Obviously loses her power and momentum completely. So her score won't be made out of 10 there. A little bit of a disappointment there for Edith, but she needs to regather herself. She does have a second pass here to put up a score and to make sure that she can progress through to our final, which will be the third pass that we're going to see soon here from our tumblers. We're back to the men now with Tristan for his second pass. Over the past few years, we've seen some great success from our tumblers. We've had both the men and women make team finals at the World Championships, as well as being huge contributors to the team all-round event at the Australian World Championships as well. Here goes Tristan, round off, whip, 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 whip. Nice fast whips for Tristan there into a beautiful double back straight. Little bit of a step there, but a solid pass there from Tristan for his second outing. So the air floor that you can see on the right hand side there, that's going to be used by some of the younger athletes just to help the skill transition between a lot of the clubs that are training on air floors over to the power track. To get the most out of the power track, you do need to be that little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. So we have the decision made in Gymnastics Australia to have both available so that some of our lower levels are able to still compete here at the Australian National Gymnastics Championships. Here goes Harry for his second pass. Round off, back handspring, full in, back out, very fast whips into full. Little bit of instability there on his landing, but gathers himself just before stepping off that top landing mat. Harry's been slowly progressing over the last few years, but in the last 2 years in particular, he's made a big push to push himself up into this senior field and to be a competitive amongst the top athletes here in Australia. It's great to see some of the young talent coming through in Australia. But next up we have Ethan, two-time world champion. He also quite often will duck off over to Europe and to Denmark to compete in an event called Face Off, which is more of like a skill showcase that is held in Denmark by a group over there. There's sell out a stadium of 10,000 athletes with fireworks and all sorts of crazy contraptions with setups that athletes will go between trampolines and tumble tracks onto finishing their last skills onto resi or kind of like a foam pit. And it's kind of like a bit of a showcase of the skills, and you see some crazy stuff. And Ethan's been over there and contributed and has helped grow the brand of Face Off as well. But I think his heart still lies here in Australia in tumbling and wants to see the team do well. Big full in, full out straight there from Ethan. Super fast whips and then a full in, double out. So a lot of twist there from Ethan. His last skill there was a triple twisting double back in the straight position. So in his first somersault, he completed one full twist. In the second somersault, a double twist on the way down to make that triple twisting double back. But not only that, the skill in the middle of his routine there was a full in, full out, where he does a full twist in the first somersault, full twist in a second somersault, showing his versatility, showing his aerial awareness to be able to transition between both skills in that one tumbling pass is truly impressive there for Ethan. Jacob Smith now up for his second pass. You can see the speed that Ethan was developing there in his routine, showing the absolute world-class form. There has been rumours as well of Ethan has his sight set on the Olympic Games, but for those of you that will know the sport of trampolining, power track tumbling is not in the Olympics. So Ethan has spoken in the past about potentially transitioning over to men's artistic to have a run at floor and have a crack at the Olympic Games. So we'll have to keep an eye out for Ethan. Huge double pike there from Jacob into, I think that was meant to be a full in, full out. Just didn't quite have the rotation to get around. Does a full in, half out to his backside there. Not the outcome that Jacob was looking for there, but he's had a solid pass up in his first tumbling section there, so hopefully that's going to be enough to carry him through the final, and we'll see Jacob up again soon. Yeah, back to Ethan. I know he's spoken about it in the past. I don't know the reality of that, whether he's genuinely going to have a crack at the 2028 LA Olympic Games for men's artistic floor, but he has a background in artistic gymnastics, so it wouldn't be too foreign for him, and he has been seen to in the occasional Instagram video training on a men's artistic floor, and he's very much capable of doing some of the skills that we've just seen here tonight on an artistic floor as well. He's a quite a talented athlete, showing his versatility as well. Round off, back full, whip, back full, whip, back handspring, double back tuck there for Elise Duffy from New South Wales. Beautiful finish there as well. She looks happy with that one. Coach looks happy there too, heading back down to support the next athlete. Next up, we've got Lani Gleeson, also from New South Wales, ready to go for her second pass. So once that the girls have finished their second pass, they then reset and can repeat some of the skills that they've done in the prelim rounds back through to the final. So it opens up again to pick your best and strongest routine, or maybe even to make a combination of both. We've got round off, back full, whip, double back pike there for Lani. A little bit of instability on our landing, but it's a good strong finish for her second pass. We're going to be seeing Lani again soon for that final. Internationally, there will be 2 rounds of finals, a final 1, final 2. So usually 8 athletes will be selected into final 1. Everyone will compete 1 pass, and then from final 1, the top 4 athletes are then selected to progress through to final 2. The bottom 4 athletes are eliminated, and then you have the top 4 that battle it out for the podium spots based off that one and final routine competed in final 2. We won't see that here today at the Australian National Gymnastics Championships, just because we don't quite have the field to warrant having final 1, final 2, so they're going to go straight through to final 2. Unfortunately there for Edith, probably not the night she's looking for. Again, just looked like she had a missed timing of the track, a little bit of a knee buckle there, wasn't able to continue her momentum down the floor. So tonight we're going to progress straight through to what we would call a final 2, or the sort of winner takes all rounds, where it's 1 routine, 0 start final to progress through to the podium. We may also see the order change in the tumbling. The finals is done on a random order, so that everyone is on an equal playing field, because there can be a little bit of tactics. If you are up last in a final, you do have a little bit of an advantage. Up now to one of our trampoline events. So you can see athletes starting up here on the flyaway. That's perfectly okay, but once you commence your routine, once you commence somersaulting, flipping or twisting, essentially you're not allowed to touch anything blue. If you touch anything blue, that's going to terminate your routine up to the skill that you're doing, no matter where you are at your 10 skill. But before that routine starts, you can stand on the end, you can touch the pads, you can stop and start if you wish, but once you start somersaulting like we're about to see now, that is where the routine progresses. So we've got a Rudy out pike, half in, half out tuck, double back tuck, half out tuck, double back pike. Just we can see there, has hit the index, so that is going to be the end of the routine there, which is going to essentially put the athletes out of contention for a final here if your score is not being scored at its full capacity from 10. So back to our tumblers now. We've just seen a little bit of a rejig from our athletes. The order might have just changed slightly, and that is just done on a random basis. The rules used to be reverse order, so if you were winning at prelims, you got the privilege of going last. Some athletes loved it, some athletes didn't like it at all, but it did give you a little bit of an advantage. And if you did have a range of routines in your quiver, essentially you could watch what your competition has done before you and make those changes and adjustments to what you are going to be competing. But the rules changed internationally to move away from the reverse order. So now it is a random draw. Computer or generates the start list based off a random selection for your start order of where you're going to compete in the finals. See the athletes now presenting to the crowd. They're going to have their names called out, and you can hear the support here at the Australian National Gymnastics Championships for our tumblers. Tumbling's one of those sports that you really need to see live. It's so fast, it's so loud, it's so powerful. Sometimes the camera doesn't always do trampoline sports the most justice, and it usually at World Championships draws the biggest crowd and is the most entertaining event because it's the most action-packed. It's so fast, it's so furious, anything can really happen, that it is one of the most entertaining events to watch when it's competed at that high level. We're getting a little glimpse of it here. The Australians, we're quite well known for our tumbling over the recent years with the success of people like Ethan, Coralie and Brianna, who have also done it on the women's side as well. We've had some success in team events. And a lot of countries are now coming out to Australia to train with Dimitri Kashan and Ethan and the team over there at KSTP to see what it's all about. But by no means are the facilities perfect here in Australia. KSTP's run-up actually goes out their door and has been known to visited by some brown snakes and some poor weather conditions as well. Back over to our women's trampoline here now. Got a full in half out pike, double back pike, half out pike, half in half out tuck, Barani tuck, back salt straight, Barani straight, double back tuck, half out tuck, and a full in full out straight there that doesn't quite make it around. Our gymnast looks okay there, but probably not the result she's looking for in our Junior 17 plus female trampoline final. So our tumblers will just have a quick little touch for some warm-ups again. If they are making routine adjustments or changes based on what's happened in the prelims, this just gets them a chance to able to make those adjustments and can maybe up the difficulty or lower to make sure that they're ready to go. Next up in our Junior 17 plus female final, you can see the athletes here on the trampoline. The top guys and women in the world are going to be jumping 8 to 10 meters in the air. This division, our 17 plus, is kind of like the step right before they take it up into the senior levels. So these are our future stars. Probably another 3 to 4 years and we're going to see these names hopefully on the big stage representing Australia to Senior World Championships. Beautiful double back straight there. To finish off. Likewise for the tumblers, the trampolinists that we just watched, that is also going to be a zero start final. So it doesn't matter what's happened in prelims the day before, everyone comes out with the starting score of 0 and it's a one routine winner takes all situation, which adds up the intensity. Even if you're winning prelims by 6 to 7 points, it does not matter. You are heading into the final with a 0 score on the board, which opens up the door for anything and anyone to take all the marbles. We can just see our 17 plus junior men's trampoline final coming out as well here. They're going to have their names called and present to the crowd as our tumblers are completing their warm-up as well. So in the 17 plus men's trampoline final, we have Nathan Lewsome out of New South Wales, Alexander Richardson from Queensland, Patrick Lewsome, the two brothers representing strongly for New South Wales there, Phoenix from Victoria, Elliot out of WA, Finley from Tasmania, Jake and Roman both coming across from over the ditch from New Zealand as our guests here at Australian National Gymnastics Championships, Hudson and Emerson. So Jake and Roman as New Zealand guests, they can compete, they can take a medal, but if they were to, for example, win first place, we would have the overall national champion, but then we would also be presenting a domestic national champion to an Australian resident. So you might see some presentations later on if some of our fellow Kiwis can sneak their way up onto a podium. We might see an odd situation where you've got two people on the podium, that's because there's first overall and then the Australian national champion, which does need to go to an Australian resident. We also have a Canadian across from coming to visit over from Canada to compete here at our Australian National Gymnastics Championships. So our tumbling warm-up just looks like it's about to wrap up. And then our men's trampoline will have a couple of touches to get adjusted into the arena as well, and we'll be back underway with our live action soon. So our junior 17 plus division that we just saw a little snippet of in the women's, and the men will be up next. That's a really pivotal transition category for our younger athletes as they're aging up and making their way towards hopefully being in the senior international division, which we're going to see the final very, very soon. But we might have an athlete that isn't quite ready skill-wise or difficulty-wise to make that transition. This allows them to stay in the sport, have a category to compete in while they work on progressing towards that international level would be the goal for most of these men that we're seeing in the junior 17 plus men's division and women's division here today. But we're back over to our tumblers, and we have Edith out of Victoria, double back straight, whip, just losing momentum again, finishes with that back full. Probably the right choice for where she was. She didn't quite make it onto the tumbling track, but that's the furthest we've seen Edith make her way through her tumbling pass tonight. Nice to see Edith come off not the best prelims and regather herself, regain her composure, and to be able to put up a strong, solid routine there in our final. We've got our next competitor here, Lainey Gleeson from New South Wales. Just getting herself set. Once the head judge salutes to the gymnast and indicates that the judging panel is ready, they do have about a minute to start. If you do progress over that minute, then you will receive a time penalty. There's the salute from the head judge. That means we're ready to go. Scores are in for the previous athlete. Ready to go. Round off, whip, double tuck. Oh, a little bit of loss of momentum there. Gets the double pike around to hold it together. A little bit of a jump up in difficulty there from what we saw in the prelims. A little bit of a shaky. You can see coach and athlete are both pretty happy with that performance. That was a big jump up in difficulty there with the double in the middle for our transition. Little bit of loss of momentum, little bit of loss of power, but she holds it together incredibly well there to finish off nice and strong. Sorry, my apologies, that was Elise Duffy. Now we've got Lainey Gleeson up. My apologies, the change of order threw me off there. Lainey Gleeson now from New South Wales to finish out our women's tumbling event here at the 2026 Australian National Gymnastics Championships. Starts off with a strong round off. Whip, double tuck. Good fast transition there. You can see the speed in her whips holding strong. Pike double. Oh, just lands a little bit short there. I think that's going to cost her a little bit. She was strong through the middle of that routine, but just opens up a little bit early out of her pike double, landing short and unfortunately put her hands down. It's up to the judges whether they count that for her skill to count towards her difficulty. She did land feet first, and then the hands went down pretty quick after. So the decision now is in the head judge, whether that skill gets counted. If it gets counted, that's going to be a big help for her in her total score to have the difficulty included and just cop a landing deduction. But if the judges deem that she didn't have control or show enough of a foot first landing, then she might have that skill not counted, which will affect her total score and be probably a little bit lower. And Alyssa Duffy is going to take the win there for our women. Lainey Gleeson in second and Edith Penman in third. So I don't think Lainey's final skill counted then. A little bit lower than what I'd expect for her with such a strong pass with those two double somersaults. Alyssa taking the win with a strong fight in a routine that didn't go as smoothly as she probably would have hoped for, but she maintained her composure brilliantly to finish off. We're over to the men's now, to Jacob out of Tasmania. Round off, double straight transition, nice fast whips. Just clips onto the blue mat there, loses a little bit of height and power for his double back tuck, but he finishes off a really strong routine. You could see the speed of that he's moving through the power track there. A little bit of sportsmanship there, fixing up the equipment for the fellow competitor. Didn't need to do that, just showing what a good bloke he is, helping out a fellow competitor as he comes down. You can see the camaraderie in our sport. We're a close-knit team, and he is doing it for Tristan, his fellow statesman there. Class act there from Jacob. Tristan now getting ready for his third and final pass for the evening. You can see Ethan congratulating Jacob there. The sportsmanship in gymnastics is always front and center here in our sport and trampolining. Round off, double pike. Oh, a little bit of loss of momentum, a little bit of lost power. He regains it very well to a double tuck finish. Big step there for Tristan. But again, showing that composure through the middle of his routine. His transition out of that first double somersault wasn't perfect. You could see the buckle of the knees, lost a little bit of speed, switched his back to what he does know, was delivering that proper technique to rebuild his speed to be able to finish off that routine there. Next up, we have the hot favourite out of New South Wales, two-time world champion, Ethan McGuinness, ready to go for him. He looks happy, he looks excited, you can see himself getting ready to go. We saw some pretty controlled, comfortable passes for Ethan here in prelims. Here he goes. Round off. Full in, full out. So fast in his whips there. To full in, double out to a nearly perfect stick there. Same as we saw from his second pass in prelims. He looks happy. He's known to have a good old celebration every now and then, Ethan, when he's impressed with his own routines. That was a very clean routine. You could see how fast his whips were there. Moving at speed, nice and low and tight to the floor, giving him that power to complete that triple twisting, double back somersault in straight position. I think he would want to have that stick over again if I know Ethan. He's a competitive young man, always demands excellence from himself, and that was pretty close to it, but I know he would probably want to tidy up those little things. .28 for Ethan, huge score. That puts him comfortably in first. To finish off our men's final here, Harry Tedford out of Queensland. Round off, back handspring, back in, full out. Oh, well done. Full in, full out finish there. A little bit of change of pace in those whips there. Regained his composure pretty quick to finish off a really strong pass there. It's going to be interesting to see where Harry lands. I think that could be close to a silver medal for Harry. Regained composure pretty quick. But all around, our tumblers putting on an absolute class act of a show here this afternoon at our 2026 Australian National Championships. We will see our presentation later on for the gentlemen and the women in our tumbling, as well as all of our events here tonight being our finals. Handshakes all around for the boys. Over now to our men's trampoline in the 17 plus men's division. Harry Tedford does take home the silver medal there in the men's tumbling with a 23.8. Ethan in first place, 28.0, showing that separation that he is as the true reigning world champion. And then Jacob Smith in third place at 21.9. As you can see on the trampoline just now, we had an athlete just stop to regather their composure. This is perfectly within the rules. You do have a minute to start. There is a minor deduction if you do not start within that minute, but most athletes are willing to eat that deduction if it means that you can stop, regather your breath, and make sure you're ready to go for the best routine. We've got a triff tuck there, back somersault tuck, full in, half out pike, half in, half out pike, half out pike, half in, half out tuck, double back tuck, full in, half out tuck to a back in, full out straight to finish. And we can see there, the last bounce that the gymnast will do is what we call an out bounce. The athletes are granted one bounce after their last skill to be able to come to a complete and dead stop. There you can see the results for our men's tumbling. Ethan, Harry, Jacob, and then Tristan to finish up there to round out our men's senior tumbling results. Next up we have Patrick Lewsome, one of the two Lewsome brothers in this field, the younger of the two, trying to chase down older brother. Little fun fact, I've coached Patty here since he was about 6 years old. He's a great young gentleman. He's been working very hard at his trampolining over a number of years. See him up here in the national final in the 17 plus men's is very, very good to see. In particular, competing alongside big brother Nathan as well. So most athletes will take about 6 to 10 straight bounces to get up to height, get comfortable before progressing into their routine. You can see Patty here, Rudy out pike to get started, back salt tuck, Rudy out tuck, pike back somersault, half out pike, double back tuck, half out tuck, double back pike, back salt straight, double back straight to finish. And that's a pretty strong routine there from young Paddy Lewsome. He's got to be pretty happy with that one, I think. So our trampoline gymnast, it scored slightly differently to tumbling. Obviously, it's a very different apparatus. The gymnasts will compete 10 skills. Over their 10 skills, their score is broken down into 4 different elements. And now you can see Double Mini starting to warm up for their afternoon, for their evening and finals as well. But back to trampolining, they have 4 elements to their score. The first one is time of flight. So there's 4 sensors that sit under the feet of the trampoline, or force plates, and they time essentially how much time the gymnast will spend in the air. That score then gets added to what we call the degree of difficulty. Similar to diving, based on how many somersaults and twists you do, you'll have a numerical value that is awarded to your routine. Then you have the execution, which is essentially how nice and pretty the gymnast can make it look. And then our last element to our score is the horizontal displacement, which is essentially how far you move away from the cross. So you want to see the gymnast maintaining control in the middle of the trampoline. We're seeing a nice solid routine here from Phoenix. Maintaining his height, half out tuck there, half in, half out tuck, half out pike, and a full and double out straight there to finish. Really strong routine from Phoenix. You could see a little bit of movement there, so that's going to affect that last score I was talking about, the horizontal displacement. So there is a cross in the middle of the trampoline. That's there so the athletes can visually see where they are on the trampoline and try and make those corrections to return back to the middle of the trampoline. If your horizontal displacement is going well, it probably also means your time of flight or your height maintenance is going well. We can now see our girls warming up on double mini. This is our youth under 15s female double mini. Back to our men's trampoline now. Elliot out of WA. WA has been one of the big powerhouses in trampolining for a while. They do have a bit of a difficulty just being so far away from everyone here in Australia, but one of the main clubs over there, High Flyers Gymnastics, as well as a couple of other facilities over the years, have been able to produce top level athletes here in Australia. Rudy out pike, double back tuck, half out pike, half in, half out tuck, half out tuck, pike double back, Barani straight, back somersault straight, pike 1 and 3. You don't see too many of them too often now. So gymnasts can land on their feet, back or belly on the front as well, and the skill will progress. But if an athlete puts hands down on the trampoline, that would be a discontinuation of the performance. So our double mini athletes just getting started in the junior under 17 women's double mini. So you might be wondering about some of the terminology or words you might be hearing me talking about. Some of them sound a bit funny. We've got a half in, half out, Rudies, all sorts of different terminology that we use here in trampoline gymnastics, but it is pretty simple. A half is a half twist, and if you hear me say a half out, that means it is a double somersault. So there is an in somersault and an out somersault. So if a half out is completed, that means a 180-degree twist or a half twist is completed in the second somersault. You can also do a half in, where the twist is done in the first somersault. The other odd one that might be catching your ear is a Rudy, which is a 1.5 twisting somersault. So you might hear me say a Rudy out. That means in the second phase of the somersault, you will see a Rudy out. We've just had a triff there, which means a triple somersault with a half twist in the third somersault. Half in, half out, pike half out, pike double back, half out tuck, half in, half out pike, Rudy out pike, and then a full in, full out straight to finish off a strong routine there from Finley Webster out of Tasmania. So that was one of the bigger difficulty routines we've seen so far in our 17 plus men's event. I wouldn't be shaking your hands too much like that, Finley. That was a pretty strong routine. So his last skill then that he just completed was a full in, full out. So that means in our first somersault, there was a full twist and full in and full out. Also a second full twist was completed. So in trampoline gymnastics, you can't repeat skills unless they change the twisting pattern or the position. So for example, a double back somersault tucked, 2 somersaults in the tuck position with no twists. You can compete that skill 3 different ways. You compete a double back tuck, double back pike, and a double back in the straight position, our 3 main aerial positions for trampolining. But you can't repeat 2 tucked, for example, without receiving a penalty. We're over to our first of our friends from across the ditch in New Zealand with Jack. Triff tuck, double back tuck, full in, half out pike, pike back somersault. Nice clean routine here. Rudy out pike, pike double back, half out pike, double back tuck. He's maintaining control here. Half out tuck, full in, full out straight. My apologies, Jake, not Jack. You saw Jack then, Jake lose a little bit of control there in the middle, but he regained his composure. Just one wobbly skill there, and then he got himself back on track. Next up, we have Roman, also out of New Zealand. So these guys can place, but then there will be a residential person that will also share their position in the Australian National Gymnastics Championships here. So between the routines, there is a judging panel of 8 to 10 judges up there. Each of them will have a different role. Some of them are judging solely execution, some of them are judging solely difficulty, some of them are solely operating the force plates where they'll push a button to make sure that the routine is recorded properly. And then we also have a head judge, which is responsible for making all the tricky and difficult decisions, and to also salute to the gymnast. Usually you've got about a 30-second to a minute wait between gymnasts. As we can now see, Rome's had his salute from the head judge and is underway with a beautiful drift tuck, half in, half out pike, full in, half out pike, showing that beautiful execution. His score is going to be a little bit higher on that E side, the execution side. He's got beautiful long lines kicking out of his somersaults nice and early. Half out tuck to finish off with a full in, full out straight. Excellent control in his out bounce and nails the check there. That was a strong routine from Roman, from our New Zealand guest. You could see maintain his execution throughout that routine. The way the scoring breaks down, different athletes can kind of take a different approach. If your strength is, I've got all the big tricks in the bag and I want to go out and throw down a big difficulty, sometimes that can work. If you are one of the taller, skinnier boys and you've got those long levers and you can make them work for you and jump higher than everybody else, that's a good way to go about getting a big total score as well. If you have strong execution or form, that can be your focus. But the different elements of our score means that we can have such a diversity in the range of athletes and mesomorphs and body types that can be successful here in trampoline sports. Roman does indeed take the lead there in this event with a 55.7. Strong routine there from Roman. Very, very impressed. It's up to our last two Aussie boys to see if we can knock the Kiwis off that top spot now. We've got Hudson Brown out of Queensland. See if he can do his best to regain our Australian at the top of the podium here. He's jumping nice and high to start here. Visually higher than a lot of our other athletes. But that is the risks that we've just seen there with Hudson. So this is perfectly within the rules. He can continue on. Just lost a little bit of control there. Sometimes this happens with athletes that jump a little bit higher. With extra height becomes a little bit of extra risk. Same with extra difficulty. It ups the risk of not making through your routine. But he just takes a little moment there to regather himself, make sure he's composed, and he's going to put himself in the best position to put up a strong performance here. So long as he starts within that 60 seconds, he's not going to receive any penalties here. Nice and high starting off here for Hudson. Let's see if he can maintain it. If I was Hudson, I probably would have taken a little bit longer. Just shows maybe some of our younger athletes. Drift tuck, half in, half out pike, full in, half out pike. A little bit of movement here for Hudson. 1.5 in, half out tuck. Tuck jump. This is perfectly okay if so long as he continues. Half out pike, half in, half out tuck, half out tuck, and unfortunately that's going to end Hudson's routine there. So we just saw Hudson make what we call a substitute. So these gymnasts will have practiced these routines thousands of times in their home gyms, and they will know the exact order for what skill is meant to come after it. It is a routine, it is a practice habit to make sure you're putting yourself in a position for success. But if the athlete does find themselves in a risky situation, some athletes are capable of making substitutes. They might have an easier skill that they've practiced and they know that I can drop this back and continue on my routine. So Hudson chose to perform a tuck jump there, which you normally wouldn't see in a routine at this level, but it allowed him to sort of continue on, get a few extra skills, hoping to finish that routine to bump his placing up as high as he possibly can. Didn't quite work out this time for Hudson, but a good strong lesson for him, showing good composure, quick thinking on his feet in the middle of a routine that wasn't quite going to plan for him. Last up for our event here in the 17 plus men, we have Emerson competing for Victoria. Again, jumping nice and high. We've got a drift pike, 3 somersaults with a half twist in the third somersault, half in, half out tuck, full in, half out pike. And that's going to end that routine there for Emerson. He's popped up pretty quick, he's okay. We do have some pretty good stacks here in trampolining. Hence the nice soft blue squishy mats surrounding all the trampolines to secure our athletes. Here's all smiles, here's all laugh. Sometimes it looks a lot worse than it actually is. Coaches are nice and relaxed, and he can walk that one off. Again, you saw the spotter mat there that you can see Damien Axton, our Tasmanian WNI coach, holding. That is there for the added protection of our gymnasts. The coach can make the choice to slide it in for the benefit and safety of an athlete, but it obviously will affect their total score. Over to our junior under 17 women's double mini. So double mini is quite a unique little sport. You probably haven't really seen this one. There's our results from our 17 plus men's tramp. Good strong showing from the New Zealand athletes there to take first and third overall. The younger Lucen brother popping older brother there. I'm sure that's going to be brought up over the dinner table for the next few weeks. Patrick's got bragging lights there over older brother Nathan. As someone who also competed against and alongside my older brother, that's a win for the younger brothers. Over to our youth under 15 female for double mini. So this is our first final. So the athletes will compete one pass. Then the scores will be calculated. We will have 4 athletes be knocked out, and then 4 will continue on to final number 2. We've got half out pike, double back tuck, and you can see the landing zone there, the 3 different colors. The red zone is where you do want to land. If you land in that big red rectangle in the middle there, that is going to be a 0 deduction. If you land outside into the yellow, you're going to receive a 0.3 deduction on your landing. If you land in the blue, you're landing in a 0.5 deduction there. And if you step between the zones as well, that is also going to constitute a larger deduction. We are over now to one of our premier events. We are on to our senior women's trampoline final. We saw these young ladies come out here yesterday in the prelims and put together a pretty good showing, and now we're on to our final. So unlike prelims where there was 2 routines, it is 1 routine, winner take all. Everyone is starting from 0. You can see the athletes here being presented to the crowd and to the judges. Big cheers all around. So our top female athlete just recently competed in Portugal and Switzerland in World Cups in the last 2 weekends, and the Australian team flew back into Sydney, arrived on Tuesday, came straight here to the competition hall to warm up and get ready for the Australian National Gymnastics Championships. And I think a little bit of fatigue played its part in some of our results that we saw in our prelim rounds yesterday. So our top female trampolinist that had some amazing results in both Portugal and Switzerland, Karina Haggerty, unfortunately didn't quite put together the prelims that she would be after, and is unfortunately not in this final. So that opens up the door to a field of younger athletes to step up and put their name onto the trophy in history as one of the top Australian female trampolinists. We also have Gabby Flynn from Canada competing in this event as well. So Gabby's got quite a unique story. She's been one of the top female gymnasts in Canada for a number of years now, but she also has a unique situation where she has a dual citizenship with her father being an Australian citizen. So life has led to Gabby potentially moving back to Australia to pursue her trampolining career here. So she's got a difficult choice to make to decide which flag she wants to have on her leotard, whether that's going to be Canada or for Australia. She's quite the talented gymnast, should be a welcome asset to the Australian trampolining team. So if she does make the choice to come across to Australia, she'll be welcomed with open arms. Gabby Flynn, which we'll see here up soon in the female trampolining while they're just doing their one touch. We're going to jump back over to double mini. So the gymnast will compete 2 skills here. They can compete a mount bounce, which is we can do one skill from the slopey one like that. We've got a Rudy mount into a full in back out tuck, and she nails that straight into the red landing zone there. So red is good. We want to be in that landing area there, not receiving any additional deductions for our landing. You can also do what we call spotter pass, which the athlete takes a jump off the slopey bit of the double mini up to the flat bit, and then we'll compete 2 skills. Your pass doesn't actually start until you initiate your first skill. So if the gymnast isn't in the best position, they can choose not to start their routine, walk back up to the start of the run-up, and go again. We've got half-out tuck mount, full in back-out tuck from our New South Wales athlete there. A massive, massive pass, and she nails it into the landing zone as well. That was a huge pass, double somersault from our young New South Wales gymnast there. All smiles from coach. Bianca there is also a previous world champion in this apparatus in women's double mini, but unfortunately she wasn't wearing the Australian colours, where she now calls home. She is previously from South Africa and had a long time representing this South African team, my apologies, with great pride on the world stage when she took home world championships in 2017. Back over now to the trampoline. So the women now have a couple of warm-up turns just to get sort of familiar with the equipment, get themselves set up, ready to put on the best performance. You'll see different sort of strategies or choice depending on the athlete for what they want to do. Personally, when I was competing, I always just wanted to touch on my first skill, because I figured if I got the first one right, hopefully the second one would flow on and so forth through and produce a quality routine for myself. Some athletes, if you have your trickier skills at the end of a routine, might want to touch on that. Some athletes just like to jump and just get used to the equipment again and the lighting of a big arena like this. So it really is up to personal preference. You are time capped though for your touches. You can't go over, I believe the time's 45 seconds to a minute, or up to the discretion of the head judge. If you're abusing the warm-up period and taking an obnoxious amount of time, you can be penalized on your score, or even disqualified. I've never seen it happen in my 25-year career, but it is something that can occur if an athlete isn't being quite respectful to the rules of the sport. We've got 2 young South Australians finishing off their warm-up here, Rebecca and Ruby, training out of the T-Jet Centre down in South Australia. South Australia may not have the biggest numbers, but they are very capable and have produced multiple national champions over the years. They're always building, they're always on the up and up. They've always got high quality athletes coming out of the South Australian programs down there. Alright, we're about to kick off now. We've got Evie out of New South Wales kicking off this final now. Oh, nope, my apologies. I think they've got another warm-up turn. Nice strong warm-up turn there from Evie. So our women at the moment, some of the familiar faces may be missing from tonight's event. If you are a trampoline fan and you've tuned in before, some of our women, our 2020 Olympian Jess Pickering has been, unfortunately over the last few years, dealing with a little bit of injury. So she's just currently had a knee surgery and has been going through the rehab phase. And I know she's got her eyes set on making a return to the sport, and hopefully we see that familiar face back on the competition stage soon. Abby Watts, who was arguably our leader of our women's field through the Paris Olympic Games cycle. So how Olympic qualifications work is 16 men and 16 women get selected through World Championships and a World Cup cycle, accumulation of points. Abby was just so narrowly missed out on qualifying Australia's female spot to the Paris Olympic Games. She finished up, I believe, in 17th position, just narrowly missing by the skin of her teeth for that one. But her and her husband, also two-time Olympian Blake Gaudry, are expecting their first child very, very soon. So it's unclear whether Abby's going to return to the sport, but I've been on many teams with Abby. She's an absolute warrior. She's an absolute champion. It would not surprise me one little bit if we see Abby back here at the Australian National Gymnastics Championships next year with a baby in tow. She's a phenomenal athlete. She's an absolute warrior. I've seen her battle through multiple injuries and adversities in the past with a smile on her face, and has always been an asset to the team. So I wouldn't be one bit surprised if we had our first Australian mum back here competing next year. But with those few injuries and expected mothers soon to be, it has opened up the door for some of our younger girls in Australia. So the number one priority here at the Australian National Championships for these athletes, this is a selection event for the World Championships. So number one is to put yourself onto the national team and to get a spot to go to China in November this year and represent Australia at a Senior World Championships. Priority number two is to take home a national championship. So the prelims rounds and the finals can both count towards qualifying, hitting up qualifying scores. A national team is made up of 4 men, 4 women for each discipline in each apparatus. Just because you place 4th, though, at one of the selection or qualifying events does not necessarily mean you are going to be selected as one of the athletes to compete at the World Championships later this year. There is a selection process that has certain criteria or certain scores that the gymnasts need to hit. So if it was unfortunately that none of the men or women were able to prove that they are capable of hitting world-class scores, then unfortunately Australia wouldn't send an athlete in that apparatus. It unfortunately has happened before. For the last few years, we have sent pretty much full teams to the World Championships, and we've had 4 men and women across all apparatus. And due to that strength, we've been able to put up some pretty strong performances in team events and in all-round team events at the World Championships level. So the doors are open on this women's side, with a few injuries and life circumstances taking people out of the sport for this year. So the opportunity or the window's there for some of these younger girls to really step up, to hit up a big score, to give the selectors no choice but to put them onto a team that can mean that they secure a position to head to China later this year and wear their green and gold and represent Australia at the highest level. So big final for these girls to see what they're capable of and cement their position on the Australian team. All right, now we're underway. Evie, training out at SGA in Sydney, one of our young up-and-coming stars. So she's patiently waiting for the head judge to give her the all clear to kick off this final. Usually a final would only be 8 people. If you were counting during that warm-up, there is 9 out on the floor tonight. That is because Gabby Flynn, currently under her Canadian flag, does not count as a residential position, but she placed in the top 8 in final. She placed first after prelims, which means we have 9 athletes up here competing tonight. Full in, half out pike, half in, half out pike, back somersault straight, half out pike, half in, half out tuck, double back tuck, Barani straight, back somersault straight, half out tuck, back in, full out straight for Evie. I don't think that was the routine that Evie was quite intending to do. We saw her warm up with the third double somersault at skill 3 But she made a substitution, quite a smart one as well, because she was able to finish off a routine and put up 10 skills. I don't think it's going to be the one that's going to put her onto a World Championships team, and maybe not her best performance, but sometimes in this sport, finished routines will mean that you can find yourself placing quite high up the leaderboard. We've got Layla Dugan out of Queensland up next in our senior women's trampoline final. So if you do touch the blue padding, or the mat comes in, or you stop your routine, instead of being scored out of 10, your scores will be taken from the number that you finish at. So if you fall off on skill 4, that means the last completed skill would be skill 3, and the judges will judge you out of 3 rather than out of 10. So it is a cutthroat sport, trampolining. You can't get up and finish a routine if you miss, unlike beam or uneven bars in some of our other gym sports, where the athletes have that opportunity to progress. It's one shot, one opportunity to put up your best performance. Layla starting off with some pretty decent height here. Starts her routine with a full in half out pike, pike back somersault, half out pike, tuck back somersault, Barani straight, pike double back, Barani tuck, tuck double back, half out tuck, double back straight to finish off her 10th and final skill, showing control on her check there. One of our younger athletes out there tonight, Layla, is not the biggest difficulty that you've seen. So after the Paris Olympic Games, there was some rule changes that occurred, as happens at the end of every Olympic cycle. And essentially what the Federation of International Gymnastics rules have sort of prioritized is we want to see triple somersaults. So we will see Gabby later on. I know she's got a couple in her repertoire. But internationally, you're now seeing, for the first time ever, a female, a couple of weeks ago, New Zealand athlete, Maddie Davison, just competed the first routine in the world done with 5 triple somersaults at a World Cup in Switzerland. So hopefully we can see some of the Australian girls in the next few years starting to creep up towards that 2-3 triple somersaults in a routine to put themselves in a position where they can be competitive on the world stage. Sienna Williams from WA up to show us her performance here in the final tonight. Good press set, full in half out pike, double back tuck. Unfortunately just carted that one back a little bit, just putting her in that little bit of doubt in her brain of where she was, whether she was on or off the trampoline there. I've been in that position as well, Sienna. It happens to the best of us. Chin up, there's always the next competition, but that can be one of the tricky things when you're flipping and moving around at 8 to 10 meters in the air. Decisions need to be made fast and with some consequences for your outcome for the day. She just misjudged that one then. I think she thought she was on the end, but unfortunately for Sienna, wasn't quite what she was after. Next up, we have Willow from Queensland. So as well as these athletes competing for their individual, they are also accruing state points. Willow with a Rudy out pike, pike double back, pike half out, tuck double back, tuck Rudy out, back somersault tuck, Barani straight, back somersault straight, half out tuck, double back straight. So as well as our individual glory, these athletes are accruing points for the team events for their individual states. There is an all-round state winning trophy that goes to the state with the best overall results, accumulating across all disciplines. New South Wales has traditionally been the powerhouse in this and very rarely gets unseeded. It's not unheard of across a few different team events. Tasmania has been creeping up in the men's trampolining in particular, but New South Wales has traditionally had the most athletes as well as some of the high quality athletes. At the moment though, there's a little bit more disparity, a little bit more even playing field between the states. Tasmania creeping up, South Australia creeping up. Queensland's always been that strong powerhouse right behind New South Wales as well, always keeping it close. So it's nice to see the sport growing across all of the areas of Australia. This is Gabby Flynn, our Canadian guest. There's our first Triff Pike. Back somersault tuck, back somersault, Rudy out pike, half in, half out tuck, pike double back straight. Oh, and just has the knees buckle on the end there. Not the routine that Gabby was hoping for, but that's our first triple somersault that we've seen here tonight on the competition floor from our Canadian guest. Didn't quite get the control out of the bigger skill that we were hoping for. She did warm up out the back a 2 triple routine, and we saw her compete that yesterday. So not the routine that Gabby would be hoping for there, but good to see a little step up in difficulty there. Just didn't quite pan out this time for Gabby, and if she does make the choice to come across to Australia, she will be welcomed in the green and gold. Next up, we have Amber French. Bit of a family affair. Her brother is going to be up later on this evening in the men's trampoline final as well. They have also competed a bit of mixed synchro over the years as well. Trains out of Hobart in Tasmania. She's been on Australian World Championships teams for double mini. That's her forte, but up here on the trampoline tonight. Full in, half out pike, half in, half out pike, half out pike, pike double back, Barani tuck, half in, half out tuck, Barani straight, double back straight. Pretty solid routine there from Amber. That's going to put her in a pretty good position. So far, haven't had the highest level routines finished by the girls. This really is open for anybody to take in these final 3 performances. Evie May out of Western Australia up next. So currently sitting in first place is Willow. Oh, there we go. Amber slots up into that first position with a 50.11 to take that top spot at the moment. Couple more performances to go. We've got 3 to finish, but that puts Amber in a pretty solid position to end up with a medal here. Evie May starting with a full in, half out pike, half in, half out pike, Rudy out pike, double back tuck, a little bit of travel, but she's holding her composure. Baroni straight, half in, half out tuck, half out pike, pike double back, half out tuck, double back straight. She gets it around to finish off a pretty strong routine. That might sneak her up into a podium position here. I don't think that's going to quite knock off Amber in that top position as we creep towards our final few positions. Rebecca Thomas from South Australia. She is no stranger to the senior women's final here. She's been in probably one of our more established athletes so far. Believe she was on the podium last year at Nationals as well. So I think this could be, if all goes well for Rebecca, this could be a really strong performance. Hopefully put her in a position not only for the podium tonight, but also for a slot on the Australian national team to take on the World Championships in China later this year in November. These athletes do have another chance to qualify for that event at the Australian National Gymnastics Carnival later on this year. Operates as our second selection event to put themselves in a position to represent Australia at the World Championships. Rebecca building up her height nice and high here. just hasn't quite found that perfect bounce to go yet. A little bit of a leg break showing she's unstable, but she's ready to go. Full in, half out pike. Half in, half out pike. Barani straight. Double back tuck. Half out pike. Half in, half out tuck. Half out tuck. Double back pike. Barani straight. Back somersault straight. Again, another substituted routine there from Rebecca. Sure, that's not the routine that she was hoping for. You can see a little bit of disappointment there. And that can be the challenging thing about being later up in the flight. If you've seen what's happened before you, that can go either way. If the performances haven't been amazing and you know that that window's open and you're capable of coming away with the national championships, sometimes that can get in the way and unfortunately affect the mental preparation, or vice versa. If you've seen an enormous score from one of your competitors, it can put you under the pump to really produce. My approach during my competition days was I ignored the scoreboard. I had no idea what was happening in the event because to me it never really mattered what anyone else did. I was always going out to try and do my best, put up my best performance and show what I've done in my training gym back home behind closed doors without a crowd for many, many years and months leading into competition. So even if everyone before me didn't put up the performances, it never changed my approach. I wanted to always go out and do the best for myself, and the results were almost inconsequential. If I was happy with my routines, first or last, that was a good day for me. We've got our last competitor here, Ruby Kerrison, with a podium ahead of her that she could definitely crack into. Full in, half out pike, half in, half out pike, Rudy out pike, half in, half out tuck, Rudy out tuck, pike double back, a little bit of trouble there, Barani tuck, oh, not quite what she was after. Her foot's gone through the springs. You might have just seen a spring fly through the frame there. Unfortunately, quite common. Sometimes the springs do break, particularly in a situation like that where the athlete will go through the springs. So you can see the two gentlemen in the orange shirts. They're the spotters. They're our trained people that are there to catch the athletes in the unfortunate incident if they do come off the trampoline. You can see there all the girls checking in on the war wounds. Hopefully she gets some medical attention if she needs it, but she looks pretty happy. She's all smiles. And you can see the spotters now are coming to put back on the springs. Sometimes they just break due to use. Sometimes if an athlete goes through it, sometimes the athlete comes off second best, sometimes it's the spring that comes second off best. But good to see Ruby up and walking away from there. Huge double knee pass there, back in, full out. Pike just checking his landing space there. He's all in the right area. Solid job there for our young double mini men. Be keeping an eye on the scoreboard there for our senior women's trampoline. And in first place, Amber French takes out the win with a 50.11. Evie May in second. And now we're over to our youth under 15 men's double mini. Looks like we're up to our first round of finals. Our next athlete up, Timothy Kashan. Timothy is a world-class tumbler in his own right as well. You'll see a lot of the tumblers be able to mix across the double mini, and some of the trampolinists also can cross over to double mini, but it's very rare for a trampoline and tumbling combination. Huge half out pike, full in, full out tuck, little step there. He looks pretty happy with his performance. Well, interesting to see where that lands him for our final two in under 15 men's double mini. Some pretty strong scores on the board in front of him, but that is a big degree of difficulty there for Timothy to see where he's going to land. So double mini is a bit of a mix between the power the finesse of trampoline, the power of power track tumbling and the finesse of trampoline all combined into one crazy sport. And Timofey is going to pop up for a national champion there with a 25.1, with almost over a point lead to second place there for our under 15 men's double mini. Very, very impressive routine there that we managed to catch just the final glimpse of there. Our next event up on the trampoline, we have our senior men's trampoline event. We just saw our senior women's. Now we're over to our senior men's. Our senior men, if you've never watched this before, these athletes are going to put on an absolute show. We have these athletes jumping about 8 to 10 meters in the air. We're going to see a little bit of a jump up in difficulty here in their routines. Multiple triple somersaults from the men here tonight. And our men's trampolining here in Australia is in a pretty healthy position at the moment. We just had 4 of our men return from 2 World Cups back-to-back the last 2 weekends. 1 in Switzerland, 1 in Portugal, and to round it out with weekend number 3, Australian National Championships here in Sydney. So our top 4 men at the moment have had a lot of travel, and I think that played its part yesterday in the prelim rounds. We had arguably our top internationally ranked athlete, Brock Batty. Unfortunately didn't qualify for this final tonight. He didn't have the best prelims, but what he did just recently do is put himself in a position internationally to be knocking on the door of top 10 potential. He just came off 2 World Cups where he made the semi-final and finished, I believe, 12th and 13th at those 2 World Cups respectively. I know he's quite disappointed with the outcome yesterday to not be in this final, but a few other names to watch. We had Bryce Edwards take part in those 2 World Cups, coming off some pretty strong international performances. We have Nicholas Diaz-Ballas from New South Wales. He also came off 2 semi-finals over at 2 World Cups for the Australian team. We've got Matthew French, who's no stranger to the big stage, making some World Championship finals across double mini. We've got Luca McLeod, who's our reigning national champion from the previous year from Tasmania, also on those World Cup tours. I know Luca didn't have the best performances he had overseas, but he was able to put up some pretty solid routine yesterday that's put him as probably our top favourite. But this is senior men's trampolining. Anything can happen, and there is a very large chase pack in Australia behind our top 2 ranked athletes of Brock and Luca, and Nicholas knocking on that door as well. But then behind those boys, we also have a pack of about 4 or 5 athletes who are all represented in this final, who are trying to take a hold of those positions for the Australian team to compete at World Championships later this year. And this being one of the key selections events, no one was really able to separate themselves in a big way yesterday in prelims, but a solid routine tonight could go a long way to making sure that you've got your hands locked onto one of those coveted positions for the World Championships team. As you can see, already massive height from these boys, couple of extra triple somersaults, couple of extra big twisting skills that we're going to see on display here from our gentlemen. So a couple of events warming up. These men would have touched the trampolines out the back already, but they get 2 touches of the trampoline out the front. Each trampoline you can see on the floor, there's 2 for the men, 2 for the women, 4 in total. The reason why is because trampolines can differ drastically between each pieces of equipment. Depending on the age of the equipment, how well it's been looked after and maintained, the air temperature in the room, it can completely change the speed or the timing of the trampoline. The lights in the arena can play a huge effect. So for me, when I was competing, if there wasn't much difference between the 2 trampolines, I would always go the closest one, because if you don't know me and you haven't met me before, I'm quite a short man, 163 centimeters tall, one of the shortest international trampoline gymnasts on the circuit when I was competing, and I just genuinely believed that being closer up to the judges meant that they could see less, because I was jumping quite high and they would sit underneath me. We can see a lot of men using the far trampoline here to warm up away from the judges. Probably indicates that that's the more powerful trampoline. You also, personally, I always tried to find the trampoline that was the closest to what I trained on a daily basis in my gym in Newcastle. And if I didn't like either of them, or they were both pretty good, then I would always go the close one. But don't really have any evidence whether that worked or not. It was just a personal preference, and whatever you could do as an athlete to give yourself that little bit of a mental edge, I was fully on board for. Again, each gymnast will choose what they choose to warm up in these 2 touches. There might be a skill that you've been having a little bit of trouble with and you just want to touch and get a settler in to make sure you're ready to roll. You might just want to make sure the body's primed and ready to go. Each person will have their own little approach to how they go about this. But we will see a big jump up in our difficulty from the women. Hoping to see at least a few routines here with 3 to 4 triple somersaults in them, as well as these athletes maintaining their execution, time of flight and horizontal displacement as well. You can see Luca up here on the trampoline now. He's probably one of the top favourites to take out this national title. He's the reigning champion from last year. He's had some pretty solid performances internationally. One of my old synchro partners before I hung it up, training out of Hobart, out of Kingborough Gymnastics Club. Sebastian Smith put up an amazing performance yesterday in prelims from New Zealand. He pops over all the time. New Zealand hasn't been known as one of the strongest countries in the world, but they have arguably one of the greatest trampoline athletes, in my opinion, to be around for the last few years, Dylan Schmidt. He's not here today. He's just coming off the World Cup tour, where he took a bronze medal at one of the World Cups. He also has a silver medal at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games and a previous world champion out of New Zealand. As mentioned earlier, New Zealand also has one of the top female athletes, Maddie Davidson, who just got engaged to Dylan Schmidt. The 2 top athletes in the country just got engaged on a mountaintop in Switzerland a few weeks ago. So we wish them all the best in their athletic and personal life as well. 2 great people as well. But New Zealand has always had some really quality athletes. They probably don't have the depth or the numbers that Australia has, just being a smaller country. But that does not hold them back from being competitive on the world stage. There is a heated friendly competition called the Trans-Tasman that takes its turn being hosted at the Australian National Gymnastics Championships or the New Zealand National Championships. We take a year on each. Usually the host country will win, but it's always a good competition that is between Australia and New Zealand. Up now we've got Bryce. So he just made his international debut on the Australian team at the recent World Cups. Put up some pretty solid routines. I think it was more of an experience building competition. Bryce is definitely one to watch as he progresses through and is kind of in that fringe pack of athletes who are chasing that 4th or 3rd position on the Australian team. Just saw a couple triple somersaults there already from Bryce. I'm excited for these boys to get underway. Hopefully put on a good show. Up now we've got Patrick Schulter. He's also an ex-synchro partner of mine. We competed together at the 2022 World Championships in synchronized trampolining. Patty took a small break from trampolining over the last year or so. Needed to sort out some personal things in his life and figure out where he was going to live and what adult life looked like. Now currently back in Tasmania, working for Newcastle, working for the university in events management, and an absolute asset to Australia. If again, previous World Championship representative, hasn't quite been there in the last few years, trying to earn his way back onto the team. in a big way, and a good strong performance tonight will definitely help that. As you can see, the final's quite heavy on the Tasmania boys. They've always been competitive. They've got a great program down there headed up by Ben Kelly, who's been a mainstay in the trampoline community at producing top tier athletes over the years. All right, here are the boys coming up towards the end now. This was always my favourite part of competition. Warm-up's done, just waiting for the formalities to start. It was always the bit that I found the most exciting, because the work's done, you're ready to go, everything's set. I was always excited for comp day. It was always my favourite time. Chance for the opportunity to put on display all the hard work, all those hours spent in closed doors gyms with no fanfare, to get out in a big stadium like we have here in Homebush in front of the country was always one of my favourite days. But I was one of those rare few that didn't get nervous, and I thoroughly enjoyed competing. It was always my favourite day. But I was probably one of the few. I can see on the floor in front of me, a few boys got some nerves. Everyone handles them slightly different. A lot of people would have headphones on. For me, I always wanted to be a part of the stadium. I would always leave the headphones off. I would always try and spot my family up in the crowd, give them a wave, help myself relax. My coach, Brett Austin, and I was lucky enough to have the one coach for my entire life in the trampolining community, in my trampolining career, sorry. And he knew me better than me sometimes. We would always have a chat and tell some jokes, try and keep the nerves at bay, keep nice and calm, keep it happy, keep it friendly, and realise at the end of the day it is a sport. It is meant to be fun, it is meant to be enjoyed. So the scores that these boys are looking for, we didn't have the most amazing prelims yesterday. We were sitting around the top score being 57. A few of these athletes in the field very much capable of pushing up into the 58, 59s. The top men around the world from China and different Belarus and Japan starting to edge up towards the 63, 64, 65. We've got our women underway on double mini now. Just saw a beautiful double back straight. Pretty solid check there for our WA athlete. Got our last few athletes warming up as well. Our junior under 17 women on double mini here. Half in, back out pike. Full in, full out straight for Alexa Kashan there from New South Wales. That is a name to remember. She is primarily a tumbling athlete. She only in under 17s already has attempted the world record degree of difficulty at New South Wales State Championships as an under 17-year-old athlete. So not even age eligible to compete up with the big girls just yet in the senior fields. But tumbling is her main priority, but amazingly strong pass there. And that puts Alexa 3 points ahead into the lead after our first round here on double mini for our under 17 women. Another New South Wales athlete. There's our spotter pass, double back spotter. Oh, doesn't quite get the landing out of that double back. Sure, that was meant to be a double somersault there. But this is one of the things that we face here in trampolining. Things go wrong. For all the thousands of competitions that I entered in, I did quite well in a fair few of them, but there was also my fair share of misses. And this is one of the things that you learn to deal with in trampolining, that little bit of adversity, a little bit of disappointment. Our men look like they're about finished for their warm-ups, ready to get going onto their first round of competition as well. Half out tuck, pike double back. Just steps outside of that box. Going to affect her total score a little bit, but that is one happy athlete galloping off the landing zone there. Over to our men, to Bryce Edwards to kick us off out of Queensland. Bryce, just as I mentioned, coming off the World Cup tours in Spain and Portugal. It's been a big 3 weeks for Bryce. He put up some pretty solid routines overseas, building up his experience on that international circuit. Bryce is one of the sort of higher jumpers that we have in Australia at the moment. Yeah, he's able to maintain his height pretty well. Uses that long, lean frame of his, and we'll see what he's got on show for us tonight. So you can see him building, kind of getting up to that maximal height. For me, I always took 6 jumps and went. Every athlete will be a little bit different. Some do it by feel. Here we go, Triff Pike. Half in, half out Triff Tuck. Triff Tuck, our first 3 triple routine of the night. 1.5 in, half out Pike. Full in, half out Pike. Half in, Rudy out Pike. Rudy out Pike. Half in, half out Pike. Half out Pike into a Miller, or a full in, double out straight. So, big jump up in degree of difficulty. That is a strong routine from Bryce there. He managed to maintain his height pretty well. A little bit of travel on his horizontal displacement, but otherwise I think Bryce is going to be pretty happy with that routine. He's one of our young up-and-comers, very, very capable gymnast. Trains in Brisbane. He's got a big, bright future in front of him. Not too sure about the mullet, but it's working for tonight. Next up, we have River Mellon. So River actually took a little bit of a tumble yesterday in prelims. He gave us all a bit of a scare, gave himself a bit of a bump. He ended up in hospital last night, but he has been given the medical all clear to progress through with the final today. I've been in that position where things haven't quite gone my way before in prelims, and it takes some nerves of steel to be able to get back up on the equipment, not even a day later. So we'll see what our young gymnasts out of Tasmania, River, can put on show for us tonight. Nice high, good strong straight bounces here. Visually on camera it looks a little bit higher than Bryce, but there's multiple ways to go about getting your time of flight score, which is the biggest percentage of your total score. Some gymnasts, if you've got those long levers, is able to jump nice and high. Will start super high. River, Triff Pike, half in, half out Triff Tuck. Triff Tuck, half in, half out Pike. Full in, half out Pike. 1.5 in, half out Pike. Maintaining his height pretty well here. Starting to drop down a little bit, half out Pike, full in, double out on Miller finish. So that's going to be quite a common skill 10 that we'll see here tonight. River looks so happy after having a little bit of a scare last night to come back out and put up a routine like that, showing he's got some nerves of steel. Well done, River. But the last skill that you saw him and Bryce perform is called a Miller, or a full in, double out. So a double back somersault in the straight position. In the first somersault, he's going to complete a full twist, and in the second somersault, a double twist on the way down to complete a triple twisting double back somersault. We've got Avi out of New South Wales, training out at SGAC. Avi's got the potential to be another one of those people who can put his hands onto that national team slot and cement his position. He's been dealing the last few years with some odd injuries and hasn't probably had the last couple of years of performances that he's after, but he's capable of some really quality trampolining. He put it up yesterday in prelims, so let's see what he's got here. If we get to it, Avi has a pretty unique routine structure as well, doing one of my favourite and patented tricks, the triple back pike. He's going to start with a Rudy out Triff Pike, or 1.5 twisting triple somersault. Triff Pike at skill 3 there. Unfortunately for Avi, not getting the routine he wants. Drifted sideways. He's up, he's healthy, he's okay. I know he's going to be disappointed with that. He's a strong competitor. But that first skill that he said just competed then is a Rudy out Triff Pike, the first one we've seen of those tonight. One of the multiple twisting triple somersaults that the men will start. Most commonly used at skill 1 in the pike position. One of the higher degree of difficulty skills we've seen so far. Back to that terminology I was talking about earlier. Rudy, meaning a 1.5 twist. Rudy out in a triple, means it happens in the third somersault. You can also do a 1.5 twisting triple somersault, or what we call a full front half, where a full twist is done in the first somersault, no twist in the middle somersault, and a half twist done in the last somersault. Saw one of those yesterday in prelims, but I don't believe we're going to see one here in the finals tonight. Next up, we've got Patrick Schulter. Patrick's known for jumping quite high. Doesn't always have the biggest degree of difficulty, but he makes up for that by maintaining his height and starting quite high. Drift pike, half in, half out drift tuck. Again, just drifting sideways. You can see the man coming off. He's okay, he's up, he's presented to the judges. So you can see the coaches using those spotter mats. The way, as you can see, Ben Kelly there, quite shorter than Patrick. He's not going to do a great deal to stop him from hitting the ground, but you'll see the coaches using that mat to get underneath the athletes as they're landing, to give them the softest and most calm landing. Also, as an athlete, they do have high levels of aerial awareness, so they are very aware of where they are and where they're coming off on the trampoline. And it sounds a bit odd, but the best case scenario is to be all the way off the trampoline or all the way on the trampoline. Where the danger comes in is if you've got 1 foot off the trampoline and 1 foot on, and that's where that spotter mat can sort of extend the trampoline bed for you. It's not going to stop you, but it's going to slow you down. Sammy Durkin up here from Queensland. We're lucky to have him in trampolining. He was actually drafted to play in the NRL by the Dolphins, but chose to stick with trampoline sports. Drift tuck, unfortunately not getting past that third skill. 3 triple somersaults done consecutively there for Semi. He's another one who keep an eye on in the next few years, and is that battle for those 4th positions are going to be nice and tight, and will come down to the Australian National Gymnastics Club Carnival later on in the year as the final selection event. A little bit of team interstate camaraderie there. Thomas Holman from New South Wales, formerly of GB, coming out to tidy up some of the equipment there for Luca, showing that team spirit. At the end of the day, we're competing for our states, but we are all Australian. We're all here for one purpose, to make sure the best athletes have the opportunity to perform. Next up, reigning national champion Luca McLeod, out of Tasmania, another former synchro partner of mine. I've had the pleasure of being on teams with a lot of these boys. They've all got bright futures. Didn't quite have the World Cups he was hoping for. He's been on World Championships teams. He's been hanging around the edge of those semi-finals for a little bit now. Luca just needs to put all the performances that he's capable together at the right time. Rudy out drift pike. Half in, half out drift tuck. Drift pike. Half in, half out pike. Drift tuck. Maintaining his height pretty well here. 1.5 in, half out pike. Full in, half out tuck. Just loses the control towards the end there. Not quite the routine Luke is looking for, coming off at skill 7 there. That's probably not going to be enough for Luca to be able to maintain that Australian national title for himself for this year, and opens up the door for a few of the men to follow. So Bryce Edwards currently sitting in first place with 56.47, with only 2 Australian athletes, 1 New Zealand athlete to round out our final here tonight. Sebastian getting up nice and high here. Sebastian is known for his execution score. He has a beautiful line, beautiful kick out. He put up the goods yesterday. Drift pike, nice big kick out over the top. Half in, half out drift duck again. The boys are having a hard time tonight on that trampoline on those 3 triples. Not the performance he was hoping for. Stronger routine yesterday for him in prelims. This is our second French athlete for the night. Matthew French out of Tasmania. We saw his sister earlier in the women's final take out their national title. Let's see if we can have a family sweep in the men's and women's division. That'll be, I think, a first to have the family take home 2 national titles. Matt has been no stranger to the international scene. He's been competing for Australia on the double mini for a long time now. Made a World Championship final in double mini. He's got to know that this is up for grabs right now. But he's used to high stakes situations. He's used to the pressure. He also works as an electrical engineer with Tasmanian Hydro, so a very bright young man too. So we can see what he's got on offer, whether he can match his sister and take home national title for the French family, number 2. So Matt just showing there a little bit of a veteran move, showing that he is used to a situation like this. He's a smart man. He will know that he is capable of taking out this national title right now. Clearly didn't quite get the first few bounces he was hoping for, so he stopped, he's regathered his composure, got his breath, calmed the heart rate back down, and now he's back at it. If he does go over a minute, he will cop a time penalty, but the time penalty is 0.2. It's so small, it's almost inconsequential to the total score that you can hit. Rather than rushing into a routine that's not going to start well, that's much better play to take the penalty, but he's gotten away here without it. And unfortunately, it didn't help him there. Overcooked his drift pike. You could see his arms drift out. Lost control of skill 2. And unfortunately, not going to match his sister with a national title tonight with a performance like that, unfortunately for Matt. But it all comes down now for Nicholas Diaz-Ballas. He's also just come off the World Cup tour in Switzerland and Portugal. He put up a really good performance yesterday in prelims. Just come off some really good performances in Switzerland and Portugal. He made 2 semi-finals, which is top 21 athletes at a World Cup event. It was his first debut onto the senior team. Bright young man with a future in this sport, if he stays at it, which I think he will. He's a competitive young man. Currently studying primary school teaching. He just finished his first placement in the classroom, and the next day was on the plane off to Switzerland. As a fellow primary school teacher, I can say that we need more young athletic men in the field, and we need more teachers in the sport as well. One of the few things we have in trampolining is there's not much money in the sport. A lot of these athletes are working athletes, and the school teacher life does bode well for mixing athletics and career at the same time. Here he goes. Rudy at drift pike. Double back tuck. Drift pike. Triple back tuck. He maintains it pretty well there, in a bit of trouble, but he gets himself back into the middle of the trampoline. Half out pike. Pike double back. Full in half out pike. Full in double out straight. Holds together the out bounce, and he lands a stick. I have a feeling that might be the routine that puts together. I don't think it's the best routine that he's capable of. It might be tight here. The score he needs to beat is a 56.4. It's going to be close. That might be hovering around the 57s. He got himself in a bit of trouble there, but he shows that composure. He doesn't panic. Skill 3, by the looks of things, went long. He was in a bit of a tough situation, but he stays on plan. He pops up a triple back tuck, and he finishes out 10 skills, the right 10 skills that he was planning, and puts himself in a really strong position here to take home this Australian National Championship. So all eyes now in the stadium go to the scoreboard. Not the most consistent final we've ever seen. Out of the 9 routines, we've really only had 3 finish, so we know that Nick's going to be on the podium. Oh, he just takes it by 0.2, 56.6. Nix is our new Australian national champion, just edging out Bryce. And then River, after having a pretty heavy stack yesterday in prelims, gets himself cleared of concussion or any serious injuries in hospital last night, and comes back out and takes home a bronze medal. Very, very impressive there for our top 3. Nick, in a hard spot there in that final position, held his composure, not the routine he's capable of. Nick's been popping up 57s quite comfortably. So a little bit lower score than what he would have been hoping for, but nonetheless takes home that first place prize today here for the 2026 Australian National Championships. Over now onto our double mini tumbling. Still warming up before their final kicks off. Is the junior under 17 men's double mini. So the athletes get, again, a few touches out here on the front just to acclimatise themselves to the equipment, make sure they're ready to go, put on the show that they can deliver. Unfortunately there for the men, wasn't the quite the highest standard, with a few missed routines there in the men's tramp final. A few of the athletes that are vying for those positions on the Australian national team probably didn't do the performances that they're after to put themselves in cement a position, but nonetheless we have a strong podium there. Nicholas from New South Wales taking out that top spot. The trophies in trampolining sports as well are quite coveted to have your name on them. They were handmade by a few members from the Australian trampoline community of the Wareham and Austin family, two of the founding sort of pillars in the sport for many, many years ago. And some of the trophies date all the way back to the early 80s. So they've been around for a long time. They're beautifully handcrafted timber trophies. I'm lucky to have my name on a few of them, and it is cementing your name on a piece of Australian trampolining history. Once your name's on that trophy, it is there forever, and you go alongside Olympians, world champions of the past, present, and now our next generation coming through to cement their legacies. Okay, back over the double mini. Full twist back, half out pike for Dexter out of Tasmania. Again, our junior under 17 double mini, these are our sort of generation to come. Give these boys another 4 to 5 years and hopefully we'll see them stepping up into the senior ranks. Again, they're going to perform 2 skills, and then the biggest percentage of their score will also come from their landing deductions, or they're trying to aim that red box. Just there we saw our Ethan from WA land in the red box and step into the yellow. So if you land in the red box and make a transition, it is a deduction for changing landing zones upon landing. If you do step as well forwards, you then need to return your front foot back to your main foot behind, and vice versa. If you step backwards, the foot you stepped with needs to return to the front foot before presenting to the judges. Because there used to be a little tactic back in my day where if you were taking a step backwards, you would turn to present to the judges to kind of hide the fact that you weren't actually in control of your landing. The judges cottoned on. A beautiful pass there from Jalen. Half out pike back in full out straight. You can see him turning to present the judges. That used to be the tactic, to turn, kind of hide the fact that you were not quite in control. But they cottoned onto that and adjusted the rules to make sure that the athletes had to demonstrate control of their landing before turning and presenting to the judges. So a bit of double mini terminology. If you do a pass from the slopey bit like this, half out tuck, that is called the mount skill. So the slopey part of the double mini, if you do a skill from there, it's called a mount skill. If you take a straight jump onto the double mini from the mount bed onto the flat part of the trampoline, that is called the spotter. If you do a spotter skill on there, and then obviously the skill that then transitions to the landing zone is our dismount skill. You can only do 2 skills. They count towards your degree of difficulty. There's certain bonuses in double mini to incentivize certain skills. So if you compete a straight skill, it's going to get a little bit more of a bonus. Same things for doubles and triples. And then you also want to be able to land in that red box there. Lucas out of New South Wales absolutely drills that stick, nails it perfectly in that 0 deduction landing zone. Lucas trains out of CCYC on the Central Coast. His coach there, Chris Top, one of the old timers in the sport, has been around forever. Ex-athlete from his own days in the 80s. Next up, we've got Thomas out of Victoria. Half out pike, back in full out straight. Big step there, returns to the correct foot. Turn to present to the judges. The top level of double mini in the world is absolutely insane. We just recently saw at one of the World Cups in Portugal, the world record for degree of difficulty just got broken by a gymnast out of the US called Ruben Padella. And he competed a triple somersault piked as a mount skill from the slopey bit to the flat bit, and then competed a full, so a triple twisting, triple back somersault in the tuck position to break his own previous difficulty world record. Not going to see that tonight out of our junior under 17 men's double mini, but you can see the logical progressions. Half out tuck, double back straight. As that progresses through, for Ashton there out of New South Wales, you will see an extra twist to be put into the mount skill to make it a rudiat, or an extra full twist into our dismount skill, as it logically progresses as our athletes aim up to the senior levels. All progressions obviously taken with number 1 priority being our gymnast safety. Next up here we've got Xander out of Western Australia. Western Australia is probably better known for its double mini performances, with a few key contributors to a women's world championship team from a few years ago, as well as a long history of World Games athletes on the double mini apparatus. Pretty strong pass there from Xander. Nails that. Coach looks pretty happy, Ricardo. And then to finish off here, we've got another Kiwi across from the ditch, Jenko. And then this is final number 1. So unfortunately, 4 of these athletes are going to be eliminated, which will lead to final number 2. And then the winner from final number 2 is the winner take all 0 start final for final number 2. Athletes can't repeat passes from, they can repeat their prelims passes, but in prelims you can't repeat from across the 2 passes. Full in half out tuck, 1.5 twisting double somersault into double back straight for Jenko. So if Jenko there pops up into the top 4 after final 1, what will happen is that he will progress through, but there will be a residential position for his. So let's say he's in 4th, there will be a residential 4th, which will mean that there will be 5 people progress through to final 2. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jenko puts himself into that position, because that was a strong pass. Pretty big difficulty there as well. So there'll be a slight pause here as the scores come through. And Jenko has put himself into 3rd position there. So that means our last final here, final number 2, will indeed have 5 athletes involved. So quick little brief, their order may change, and then the athletes will be back down for their 4th and final pass. a lot of double mini athletes, unfortunately, when they get to the top end, one of the best and worst things that happened for trampoline sports, in my opinion, was when we went into the Olympic Games in Sydney 2000. Unfortunately, we were only able to put forwards one apparatus, so individualized trampoline went into the games, which has been amazing for trampolining because that individual apparatus has progressed mightily over the last 26 years since its inauguration event here at the Sydney Olympic Games. But unfortunately, that has caused some consequences for our other apparatus in trampolining. It means some of the best talent is prioritizing trying to become an Olympian and potentially moving away from apparatus like we're seeing here, like double mini and tumbling, in the pursuit of Olympic glory, which also means that unfortunately hasn't progressed at the same pace as trampolining has, with athletes choosing to prioritize. Just saw our first pass there for round number 2 for our junior under 17 men's double mini. Next up, we've got Jalen Young out of Queensland. That was Ethan from WA to kick off our first pass here. 21.8 is the current score to beat with our 5-man in the 4-man final. We have half out tuck, full in, full out straight for Jalen. He sticks that in the box, a little bit of a step, but staying in that. The biggest portion of the deductions for your check will come if you leave that red landing zone. So he did a pretty good job there. Would have liked to maybe seen a little bit more control. He had plenty of drop out of that, but otherwise that is a big pass for our under 17 men's double mini, and he's going to put himself in a good position here with a 55.1. Big score for Jalen. Next up, we've got Xander. Oh, my apologies. Next up, we have Thomas. Half out tuck. Pike double back. Oh, overcooks that. I have a feeling that was potentially going to be a triple back. It looked like he had the room for that third somersault. I don't know if that was a change of plans in the moment. Looks a little bit disappointed there as he makes his way back up to the marshalling area. But Thomas Niku, big pass there. It looked like he overcooked a little bit of over rotation. I don't think that's going to be enough to knock off Jalen there. And it's not. 22.9 for Thomas out of Victoria. Next up, Xander, also in WA. 2 of the WA athletes in this top 4 showing their strength across the double mini apparatus. Pike half out, full in, full out tuck. Lands his check, just a little step. I thought he was going to hold that there. Hopefully that doesn't cost him. Pretty big degree of difficulty there for Xander. That's going to be in a good position amongst those Aussie boys. Because remember, Jenko will have an overall ranking, but if he does put up another pass like we saw, he could potentially take home the first place slot, but we would still have a residential first place. Oh, Xander just in second place, 24.3. That means Jalen's going to hold on to the Australian national title regardless of what Jenko does here. Half out Pike, full in, full out tuck, and he drills that landing. Not going anywhere. I think his feet were in the red there. It's a bit hard to see with the camera. He looks pretty happy. That might take the overall lead, but Jalen Young's going to hold on to first place there for residential first place regardless of what happens. But Jenko showing us what our Kiwi friends have to offer. 24.9. Jalen's going to hold on to overall first place. So that leaves Jenko in overall second. Residential second goes to Xander. Third place to Thomas. And then fourth place is Ethan from WA. Really strong performance there from our under 17 men's double mini Australian National Championships. thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is all we have on offer. There are some presentations up next, but that will be our final pass for tonight's proceedings. Hopefully, I've helped you along your journey of understanding the wild and wacky sport of trampolining, and we'll be back tomorrow with our all-round team events and a little bit more action from the 2026 Australian National Gymnastics Championships here in Sydney, Australia. My name's been Sean. I'm Sean Swilling. I've had an absolute blast with you guys tonight. Thank you very much, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.